Yo, what's up, y'all? I got a little testimony, story, a little encouragement for you guys today. Hopefully, you guys are really encouraged by this. God is faithful, man. This morning, Saturday morning, we woke up, me, my wife, my daughter, and Saturdays is a shopping day around here, usually anyway. And so my wife and my daughter were getting ready to go grocery shopping today. I usually ride with them, but I got schoolwork, for those of you who know and are familiar with me, you know that I'm in school, and so I got papers that I do tomorrow, and I decided I was going to stay back. So my wife got out the door with my daughter, and she put her in her car seat, got her all strapped in, and man, a couple seconds later, boom, my wife burst in the door. In straight panic mode, she accidentally locked my daughter in the car. So my wife came in the house like, real panic, real distraught, and I panicked, and it's February and it's Montana. And even though the weather is really beautiful outside right now, but in my brain, for some reason, I just thought to myself like, oh my God, my daughter's locked inside the car. I got to get out there, boom. So we in straight panic mode right now. Of course, I decided to, throw some blame at my wife because, of course, blaming people in the middle of a panic situation is always helpful, right? Well, no, of course it's not helpful at all. But I don't know, for whatever reason, part of my panic was to start getting at my wife, like, why, how can you do this? How, why'd you drop the keys? How can you close it? All that stuff, which is not helpful. It just makes the situation much worse, And there's a reason why I'm sharing that, I'm not just throwing that in there for no reason. Just stay with me, right? So now, we trying to figure out how we're gonna get this baby out of the car, right? I don't know how to break into cars. I'm from the Bronx, so people would probably assume that I know how to get in cars. Nah, man, I don't know how to get in cars, Shout out to the Bronx, that was just a joke. Just because you from the Bronx don't mean, you should, whatever. Anyway, boom. So, we trying to figure out how to get in this car. I'm not coming up with no solutions. My wife finds the one wire hanger we have in the house, and it's not working. I Google locked out of my car, and sure enough, I get a whole bunch of hits, but we're in Montana, in remote Montana, a remote part of Montana, little town called Harlem, ironically, right? But we're in Harlem, everything is closed on Saturdays, and the only thing that was open was this auto repair shop in Havre, which is almost an hour away. And so I'm thinking to myself, do I even bother calling this number? Because my daughter was really crying in the back seat. She wanted to get out the car, and she sees us standing there, and that's stressful, man, to watch your baby crying. Anybody who's a parent knows what I'm talking about. So a part of me just wanted to smash the window and get my baby up out of that car. But I don't know, something told me to just call that number. Even though this dude was an hour away, I didn't feel like I had the patience to wait for an hour while my daughter was crying in the car. There was really nothing we could do to console her either. So I called this number, he picks up, and he's like, I explained the situation to him. I'm like an hour away from you though. I'm in Harlem, Montana. Do you travel and all that? Do you know what this guy says to me? He says, bro, you're in luck because I happen to be in Harlem right now, So I want you to let that register, The guy whose auto shop is in Havre, an hour away, just happened to be in my town. Within 2 minutes, this guy was in front of our house with all the tools that he needed. It took him less than 60 seconds to be inside our car. That was it. Baby was out the car, he got us in, we got the keys, and the story, right? So I just want to encourage you, This showed me something. I always knew this, but, I didn't take the time. I forgot one part of the story. My wife is the one that remembered to pray, right? And we didn't get on our knees and pray, but she cried out to God. You know what I'm saying? I was too panicked at that moment to start crying out to God, but my wife started crying out to God, and she just started like, no like major, like no religious prayers or nothing like that. You're not supposed to pray that way anyway. Praying is just talking to God. But she didn't like do any like formal, churchy prayers. And all she did was just say, God, please help me get my daughter out this car. God, please help me get my daughter out this car, And God heard her, he heard her prayer. But it's not that God heard her that surprises me. I know that God hears prayer. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've been a part of it. I know that God answers prayer. And if you're a skeptic out there and an atheist and all that, then, whatever, click next, close the video if you want, or listen, and try to hear out what I'm trying to say. It's not that God answered the prayer. It's how he answered our prayer. This dude, life led him to be in town today. He explained to us why he was in town. Another emergency happened not far from us on the reservation, where somebody locked their keys in their car, and they called him way earlier in the day, and he came to let that person in their vehicle, and he just happened to be here when we needed help. And that's the part that really blows my mind, is that God like foreordained for there to be somebody like in our town that can help us. Isn't that incredible? I want you to think about that. I feel like it applies to me, to you, to everybody. We all go through things every day. Me and my wife, we going through stuff right now, in my family and my wife's family. We got a close loved one, that is battling cancer, that is really putting a lot of strain on our family. My wife is a first-year teacher. I'm in the middle of wrapping up my degree to become a teacher in a time where it just seems like teaching, man, do we really want to get into like public education right now as Christians? Like, you paying attention to everything going on around the country. It's like scary, like, is this really what God, like what you're calling us to do? And I just want to encourage you, the Lord, he sees everything before it happens, after, none of that matters to him. Before and after, those are not categories that God is like bound by. Those are our human categories to understand, to have a frame of reference, time and space and all that. But God exists outside of all that stuff, and he sees, and he can ordain our steps. He does ordain our steps. He does, even despite the fact that sometimes we behave poorly and badly. Because I wasn't, I panicked and I started blaming my wife, and I'm like all flustered and frustrated. I wasn't like acting in faith, and none of us were. We were, we were stressed out. We were just trying to get our daughter out that car. But God is not offended by our weakness and by our frailty. He answered us anyway. He prepared the prayer and the answer ahead of time. You know what I'm saying? So take courage, The Lord will always have that dude right by where you need him, to open your, car so you can get your baby out, whatever that applies to in your life, the Lord will always have the response. He'll always have it prepared. And we don't got to be perfect, and we don't even have to know, there's no formula for us, just walk with God, trust God, be sensitive to God, and he got you, like the situation you might be in might seem impossible, but God got you. Jesus got you, he got you. He got the stuff in motion, and everything is just, everything will happen like right when it needs to happen. And I hope that, encourages you and blesses you, and see you guys next time. Giants are out the Super Bowl, man, but you know what? We got to rep Giants anyway, right? But yeah, Chiefs, Eagles, hope it's a good game. I don't know who to root for. I'm a Giants fan, so it's hard to root for the Eagles. But, my brother-in-law loves the Eagles, so go Philly. Peace.